Well, hello there. Welcome to the Fantasy Fiends podcast. You know, where we talk about everything fantastical. That was
what
my.
The hell is this?
That
What
was
the hell
my.
is this dude?
No, I had to point to that. That was my best Moog impression. That's how I read him when I read Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. He is our guest author today. And if you are listening,
I'd like to hear that Moog impression one more time before the end, please.
I wish I had my book with me and I could actually read a little passage, but the way I read Moog was he was wily like this, and you know, whenever he wanted to do something, it was always very wild and crazy, and he had to wear his moon onesie. And
You got him. You nailed him.
Are you serious?
Oh, pretty much.
Oh, great. Yeah, he was by far my favorite character in the book.
Yeah, well, the audiobook guy, when I first heard the audiobook version of him, I was kind of thrown off because it's definitely not how I imagined him.
Yeah.
But by the end of the book, I'd kind of come around, and he really kind of won me over and delivered all this sentiment of Moog.
How did he sound like?
You could tell Moog's sexuality the moment he opened his mouth.
Oh, really? That's not
Which
how I...
is not obviously... Yeah, exactly, which is not an intention of when I wrote him. So that at first I was like, damn it. But by the end, he did such a good job like endearing me to him that I was over it.
I think most readers will agree with me that when they're first reading Moog, they have no idea that he's a furry. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
They have no idea that he's homosexual. So, and that, you know, actually, I had to read that passage a couple times because it took me by surprise. Mm-hmm. And that is why today's theme has to do about sexuality, because I was actually a bit disappointed in myself that I let it take me by such a surprise.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't read a whole lot of I haven't read a lot of fantasy books where homosexuality was in it. Maybe I'm not reading the right books.
Well, the thing is, you shouldn't necessarily, it's okay to be surprised, because I think when you meet someone in public, you may not know their sexuality until they tell you. So
yeah,
reading a book is maybe not so different than that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one of the best ways to approach it, is like that, where it's not a character's defining trait. You know, it's not the gay character or the lesbian character or the transgender character. It's the brown-haired, sarcastic character. And oh, by the way, he just so happens to have it. Like if it's done like that, it's much more respectful than he's the gay character. You know, like in a way, it almost bothers me with some romance novels that are, you know, that are marketed as, you know, male, female, female. You know, it's like they're shoving it in your face, like you need to approve of this, and if you don't, you know, because the whole homophobia thing is like everyone can say you're homophobic if you don't like or agree with the things. But if it's done well, it's not like it's being shoved down your throat. It's just another element of who they are.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty rare in books to have a character that it's just very, very casually mentioned. I mean, there's lots of books that have, not lots of books, but some good books that have really, really amazing gay main characters, but it also is made a huge deal of in the book and by the people around them, which is not bad at all, because those kind of issues should be dealt with in books. But at the same time, I thought it's refreshing to once in a while have one where it's just not a big deal at all.
Yeah, I actually liked doing that with my newest novel, The Thief of the Night Guild. There's a character in there who doesn't necessarily go full homosexual, but it's just there's this attraction there between, you know, people of the same sex. And then in the third book, there's a reveal of the character, and the character, you find out that, I'm going to say he because most of the characters are male, so it doesn't really spoil anything. That he is gay, and that's his alibi, and it doesn't affect anything else the rest of the book. In the entire series, there's just that one thing where it says, you know, none of the women in the Night Guild are attractive to me, and the character thinks, okay, so that's why, and like just that right there, that's all that's ever mentioned about it. But it puts that presence there, and it's not, you know, it's not the defining trait, but it does sort of give a little bit of context on the character too.
Yeah, that's great.
So today's theme, we are discussing gender, religion, sexuality, and race in fantasy. Am I right, Andy?
well, just like the diversity of it all. You know, like you can, if you look at, I mean, okay, I'm going to use fantasy, but then urban fantasy, paranormal, even thrillers. You look at it and it's usually either straight white dudes, straight white girls, or maybe, you know, the occasional bit of flavor thrown in for flavor's sake. Not necessarily a character being written, you know, a diverse character being written for, you know, because of who they are. Like, I've really enjoyed doing that with some of the short stories that I've been working on, using these different disabilities as abilities. You know, the autistic kid who can see, you know, black translates to colors in his eyes because of his sensory processing disorder. So it becomes his ability, almost like a magical ability, but through the context of a disability. Things like that, like including these sort of things, you know, race, gender, religion, sexuality, all of this in our stories to bring or to highlight just how diverse our world is, but not doing it, oh yeah, I'm writing a story with this kind of character so I can stand out. But just exploring these different aspects of our society in an interesting, respectful way.
I think you blew us all away with that, Andy.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, exactly what he said. See, I'm with Nick here. I never know how to like speak intelligently after something that Andy says. Well, I'm not okay. I'm not saying, Nick, that you have troubles speaking intelligently. All right, I'm going to be quiet. Anyway, a subtopic for today will also be writing comedy in fantasy, because Nick does such a fantastic job of doing this.
Thanks.
Yes, I actually was walking through Barnes & Noble, and you know what they say, book covers, you don't judge, you judge a book by its book cover in a Barnes & Noble. You just do. If you say you don't, you always do. And I love the cover artist. She or I think it's a he. He's done Dinosaur Lords or whatever.
Yeah. Richard Anderson.
Yes, and I was like, I gotta check this book out. And I read the reviews before I bought it, and I was like, they said it made him cry, made him laugh at the same. I doubt it. And then I picked. I'm like, oh my god! First 15 pages I laughed, and it was the part where the what is the daughter's name?
Tally.
Yeah. Where you refer to her pet frogs as like the as her amphibian prisoners.
Yeah,
that was great. And then I was set from there, and just tiny pieces throughout the book I would have to like rush to my brother and say, hey, read this part, it's hilarious.
Oh, thanks for saying so. I appreciate it.
Yes. And the reason why I think this is such a big deal is because comedy is so hard to freaking write. And I think Andy will agree with me there.
Absolutely. It's bloody difficult.
So are you just like a funny guy, Nick?
I like to think I am. I do try really, really hard in public.
Oh, yeah.
But too, before I wrote this book, I hadn't read any books that were trying to be funny. Like we were talking before about the Riria books that try to be funny, and I cannot wait to read them now. But yeah, there was a little smidgets of comedy in like Liza Locke-Lamora or Joe Abercrombie books, but it was more just character wit that came across as funny. It wasn't just like in your face trying to make something really, really laugh out loud. Mm-hmm. And crazily enough, I had never read a Terry Pratchett book in my life until I finished Kings of the Wild, and it was already done. And then I read my first Terry Pratchett book and was blown away by it. And obviously Kings of the Wild doesn't try to be nearly as funny as a Terry Pratchett book. But yeah, when I was younger, I used to look at Terry Pratchett's covers and see things like The Fifth Elephant as a title and think, this book is going to be awful.
That would have been me too.
Yeah, sure. Now I've grown up and I'm kicking myself.
Yeah, and
I was an idiot.
What I found in Kings of the Wild was the sarcasm. That's what got me. That's what was funny. And and wouldn't you agree that it was? Did you intend to write a lot of sarcasm into Kings of the Wild?
Yeah, well, that's definitely a strength of writing a character that is over the hill and has kind of been around and seen it all and has kind of a cynicism about things, because it definitely lets you use your own, especially sarcasm, if you're a pressing 40 bitter man about various things. So yeah, maybe it'll be tougher in the second book when I don't have an old male protagonist to, proselytize from, but
yeah.
That character definitely helps.
Back to the race topic. I am seeing a lot of pictures of Ganelon. Do you say Ganelon? Right?
Yeah, Ganelon.
I see a lot of the artwork done that he is a black dude.
Yeah.
Is he black in the book?
He is black in the book, yeah.
Okay, because
and the thing is, yeah, not a lot of people do get it because it's not hounded upon. It is mentioned that he has a, mixed race. He's mixed race. He has a different mother and father. His father was from the north, so his father was white, but his mother was black, and so he has his father's green eyes and his mother's dark skin. So it's mentioned a few times, but it's not really belabored at all.
Well, it says dark skin. I guess I just didn't see. I was picturing him like a Prince of Persia guy, like a very just like super tan.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. I was just
like a Jake Gyllenhaal, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, it was definitely something though. Once people started to, once I was like, besides the cover, fortunate enough for people to start doing art about it, I wanted to make sure that they got them right.
Yeah.
Because once again, it's one of those things where it's not mentioned. It's not a big deal to the people around him, but it's important to me.
You know what? I'm having a really hard time not asking questions that would give a shit ton away. So, I'm not going to give anything away. That was my mantra all day. When Nick is on air, you're not going to give away his entire book to the world. So,
okay, yeah, as long as I mean, there's a lot of stuff in a lot of reviews. They'll say the basic plot. They'll tell you pretty much the first half of the book. So if it's in the first half of the book, I don't know. I mean, like, it is available to read in almost any.
You kind of broke up there. Did he break up for you, Andy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
It was just kind of breaking up there a little bit.
I was going to say just the whole first half of the book is detailed in a lot of reviews.
Okay.
So if it takes place in the first half, then it's probably okay to ask.
Yeah. Well, even if it is already given away, they're not. You have to definitely read it to get a full sense of what it is. But yeah, I really like this theme for today because you really do hit a lot of stuff, and you're a funny guy. The book is funny, but a lot of the themes in it are not funny.
Yeah.
A lot of what's going on is very very hardcore, especially Matric. Do you pronounce it Matric or Matric? Matric, like his relationship with his wife.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like a theme today could have been adultery. So,
totally.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's adultery, obviously. There's spousal abuse. There's degenerative diseases. And yeah, I definitely did not set out to necessarily add those things in. I meant to write a funny book, but they just happened along the way.
What about these degenerative diseases? How did they feature in the book? Seems we're talking disabilities today.
Well, because the book is very it's an allegory for the 70s rock scene. I have a disease called the rot, which is basically allegorical of AIDS and how it's kind of insidious. And maybe at the time, no one exactly knew, how you could get it. It was kind of a crapshoot. And you get the disease in the book from going into the forest. This massive forest that they all explore full of monsters. And sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. Which is in the 70s was, you have sex with all your groupies and sometimes you come away with AIDS and sometimes you don't. I don't mean to trivialize it, but to them, it was something insidious and something that you couldn't guarantee that you did or didn't get. So that's kind of what the rod is in my book.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I really don't want to give anything away, but Moog's husband.
Yeah.
So yeah, now I'm seeing it. See, I didn't catch that when I was first reading through it.
Yeah.
So
Moog's husband dies of the rot.
Okay. Yeah,
and
there
Moog
you go.
has been spending his life since the band broke up trying to find a cure for it.
Yes. And I really Go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say in the medieval world, it's a medieval setting, correct?
Yep.
How do the characters perceive that relationship between the guy and the husband, like the homosexual? What's their stance on it, or is it just normal?
Absolutely normal. They just casually mention that he has a husband instead of a wife, and that is it.
Isn't there a scene though where Moo gets made fun of and somebody gets really pissed about that?
Oh yeah, there is a part where they're in a tavern and someone refers to him as a pillow biter or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that stuck out because it was the homosexuality was taken as so normal.
Yeah.
So that scene's really shown out there.
Well, it's not a perfect world, but
yeah,
I mean, even
definitely not.
I've been listening to autobiographies of like Keith Richards and things like that, and just a lot of the time, what your sexual preference of your bandmates were, you just didn't care, really.
I did not know that. I don't know a whole lot about that scene though.
Oh, it was an interesting book, Life by Keith Richards.
And
for research purpose.
You and Andy both have something very, very important in common. And I've been waiting for this moment to tell you both. And I haven't told Andy this, but you both kill somebody in your book by way of smashing them in the groin.
Interesting.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
It's such a great place to kill people.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, it happens a couple times in Kings of the Wild, right?
Is it like death though? I think it's just like.
Yeah. It's not. He doesn't die, but it definitely
put them out of the fight.
Death. Yeah. It just when I was reading those parts, like, man, this this reminds me of Andy's writing.
Well, technically, there's a whole fight scene in Kings of the Wild that's referred to as the boner scene. So.
Oh yeah, there is. That's an amazing scene. We should have read that one today.
Well, see, the boner scene almost was taken out the day I got my agent. The very first thing she said to me was, "That scene has to go," because it's a little ridiculous. And I said,
argue?
"No," I said, "Yep, totally," because I've been trying to get an agent my whole life. I was like, "Yeah, it's gone. See ya." And then the more I talk to my friends and beta readers about it, they're like, "Please keep it. Do something." So
why would you get rid of it? Well, I understand. You just get your agent. You got to listen, right?
Yeah.
But man, I got to tell you, you made the right decision. Anytime you're sword fighting with your mates, with your boners, that's completely normal, right?
Yeah. Well, I toned it down. I took out very specific words like gesticulation. And definitely the word erection. So it's a more subtle than it used to be. So
yeah. Andy's like,
ridiculous.
What is going on here?
I know. This book I'm alternating between I have to read this book and there's no way in hell I'm reading this book.
No, you definitely have to. You definitely have
Probably
to.
my sales are skyrocketing right now.
Yeah. You should actually switch your book category to like something more edgy.
Yeah, totally. Swords and sorcery and boners.
Yeah, well, the sword could be the boner.
Yeah.
So, like swords and like quotations.
Unsheathed weapons.
Unsheathed weapons leads to the rot. Wow.
It's
okay.
True. It's true.
So
consult your physician.
Yeah. So I love how the theme is like super mature, and then halfway through the episode we're talking about boners.
We tried.
Yeah.
I know.
I was hoping this episode would go this direction. And we just lost all our female viewers on YouTube. Like, that's what I get for watching a podcast with a bunch of dudes. So.
Apologies.
Yes. Well, you know what, though? Actually, from reading both of you guys' books, it makes me want to, as a writer, I'm a new author. And I'm finishing up the last edition of my book, The Four Territories, and I'm feeling like I left a lot of stuff out. I feel like it's not nearly as diversified as y'all's, and I'm already writing the next draft for my next novel. I don't think I'm going to continue the one I'm doing now unless it's like amazing. Yeah. But I really want to add diversification. I want to add new races. I want to add different types of sexualities, because I wrote my first book knowing my friends and family would read it. And that's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. I really believe that. You know, I definitely filtered what I wrote.
Yeah.
I will say this. Don't do it for the sake of doing it. I just literally finished today putting the final touches on a short story called Heaven's Assassin, urban fantasy, tons of fun to write. And I went into writing the story just thinking of sort of your plain white bread female character. I knew she was blind because that's the whole point of the story. So, you know, I had this disabled character right off the bat. And then I was looking for character names, and I came across the name Shabina, which is an Urdu name, Pakistani, and it means Eye of the Storm. And I was like, shit, that's such a great, way to have this character, because all this shit's going on around her. You know, she's blinded in an explosion, and she's made a deal with an angel to kill in exchange for sort of giving her sight back and all of that. So the name Shabina just was perfect. And then as I was writing it, just more and more of these things came out. You know, she wears a hijab to cover her, you know, to sort of hide her identity, to conceal herself as she's running away from the crime scene, you know, and it explores what it's like to live with blindness. But whether or not she accepts it in the end, you know, because she's like, okay, I'm making this deal to get my sight back. But of course, at the end, she has to decide, okay, is it worth it to do all these things to get it back or not? So, like, answering these questions or looking at these things is a really fascinating way to touch on subjects that are I wouldn't say hidden, but less talked about. You know,
For sure.
We've talked about this a few times, like PTSD. Military people with PTSD, so many of them don't talk about it because it's not acceptable for a soldier or a Marine or a Navy SEAL to have PTSD, and yet it just is. It's not a weakness. It's just their brain has reacted to this trauma or this situation with this disorder, and it's not a flaw. It's not a character defect. It just is part of their neurology or their psychology. So when we decriminalize it or destigmatize it, it can be dealt with much more openly, and it stops being sort of like how homosexuality is so open. You know, you find people who just say, yeah, okay, like it's nothing. Whereas 10 years ago, even, it was like people were, you know, it was a huge deal for people to come out of the closet because it was, you know, oh my God, are my friends and family going to accept me? It is still a big deal, but now it's so much more, I'm going to say mainstream, or so much more accepted. So if in 10 years we can get to that point with these disorders where people, you know, with autism or PTSD or depression or any of these disorders, they can just talk about it openly. You know, it's just part of conversation with their friends, and their friends, you know about it, and they can say, oh yeah, you know, I was reading this article. You know, just like making it more acceptable. It'll really save a lot of lives, literally.
Do you think we are heading in that direction?
I sure hope so. And that's one thing that I want to do through my writing platform. In my newsletter, it's like the second or the third or fourth of the sequences that I send out to people when they sign up for my list. The first one is a free book. The second one is, did you get the book? And the third one is, here's about me. And it's right off the bat, I say, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome in 2013. And this new book that I'm releasing in October, it's in the introduction, right? It's right there. Yeah. And by showcasing these different disorders through the stories that I write, it's something that I'm passionate about. By showcasing them, or by showing people what it's like to live with them or to interact with people who have them, and demystifying it, so to speak, it makes it much more relatable. I've actually had a lot of people respond to that email specifically saying, you know, thank you for sharing it with me. You know, this information about yourself with me. I have this. And I've heard of dozens of disorders that I'd never encountered before because I shared this part of myself with others. So like that, it forms a relationship, and it opens things up to dialogue, you know, conversation topics that would never have been acceptable 5 years ago.
Yeah. I think sexuality obviously is definitely being pushed a lot. There's a lot of, I mean, maybe not enough, but there's definitely a lot more gay characters in books now than there used to be. Maybe not as many mixed race characters as there ought to be, especially ones that are not, you know, treated in the same vein as our own world. But yeah, there's very, very few people that talk about physical disabilities. Age of Assassins, I don't know if you've heard about that book, just came out, or just about to come out. The main character has a club foot in it, limps around the whole book, and he's an assassin, and he deals with it, and it's, you know, it's not you know, it's just something that he lives with, and it's I definitely applaud R.J. Barker for writing a character like that. But yeah, there's not a lot of talk about mental disabilities in any books.
Age of Assassins. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one. I'm gonna have to pick that one up. Yeah, it's brand new. Oh my.
Yeah, it just comes out this month, I believe.
I have seen the cover. I love the cover, and that stood out to me. Yeah, I've seen it, and it looks like Assassin's Creed. It looks like they took that from Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I mean the book is really more of a whodunit almost, like a mystery book.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got a very, very endearing main character.
So, were you born in the United Kingdom?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, Canada.
You were just born and raised Canadian.
You can hear it in his voice the way he says
about no, I just keep hearing about, and I'm just like, why did I think this guy was gonna come on with an English accent? I don't know.
Do I keep saying about?
No,
it's super understated, but as a fellow Canadian, I recognize it.
Andy, let's not lie. He is saying about. No, that's okay.
Well, I'm back in Ontario now, so my accent's really coming through.
That's something to. So, do you speak French?
No.
That's Montreal.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I lived in Ottawa for a while, and I probably ought to have spoken French, but then I moved to Vancouver for 16 years, and nobody knows French there.
Well, you can definitely make fun of my Texas draw if you ever hear it. I think the only thing that gives me away is y'all, but a lot of southern states use y'all. So
yeah, exactly. My editor uses y'all. She's from Tennessee.
Oh, wow. I went to Tennessee. That talk about a draw. Whoa.
Yeah, she doesn't have a crazy drawl, but she definitely says y'all.
Yeah. Y'all. You know, about this discussion about, you know, are we ever gonna, you know, kind of live in a world where race is not a big deal, and you know, we can talk about our issues, like not that homosexuality is an issue or anything, but you know, we can discuss these things freely. I lived in California and went to high school in California, you know, the breeding grounds of being made fun of. High school, nobody ever made fun of homosexuality.
Yeah.
I moved to Texas. Huge difference. I mean, it was insane, the ignorance that I met in Texas. But then again, things in California, it was just, not saying that all Texans do that, but I did notice a big difference, especially with the youth.
Yeah, it's definitely true. It's true here in Canada too. Vancouver, it's, you know, night and day. You hear a lot of words in Ontario that you're never going to hear on the West Coast for sure.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that. I just thought it would be like the North and the South thing, and
No, we definitely have our version of Middle America.
Yeah.
Texas, a lot of that is.
And I was born and raised in it.
Oh yeah.
Texas is a very Christian-based society, like Bible Belt. Texas is part of the Bible Belt, so it's anti-Christian, and you know, for staunch fundamentalists, many of them perceive it as anti-Christian. So that's where that comes from. Whereas in California, it's much more irreligious, not atheistic, but just sort of everybody practices whatever the hell they want or nothing at all.
Yeah.
And so it's not as it's not.
I believe they worship the almond out there, or the avocado, the god of avocados
and sushi.
Yeah, yeah, the god of moderately soft avocados.
Yeah. Are we talking about California?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's making fun of California. You can't make fun of California or Texas.
Speaking of things like acceptance or people not accepting things and whether we're moving towards that, I'm not sure if I mentioned in our emails before, but there's been a few reviews of Kings of the Wild that gave me shit for writing a gay character.
I read that.
And yeah, oddly enough, one of them I think was still a 4-star, but yeah, they said that I was trying to push an agenda or my politics or something like that, or my beliefs, and it's just disheartening when you read something like that, because
I have read books where they have pushed agenda, and it has made me very I do not like agendas being pushed on me through fantasy. I don't like it. It's just my opinion. Yeah. You did not do that. And I would say that's more of a fact than opinion. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to be my best friend.
No, I definitely agree. Friends. I definitely didn't do that. Yeah,
we're all three best friends here.
We're the three best friends.
Yeah. No, but I'm so surprised you bring this up. I actually meditated on that question. Is he pushing this on me? And I definitely came up with no, he's not. And now I'm mad at myself because I wish I could. There's a Star Wars novel where the homosexuality was definitely pushed on you. I cannot remember which novel. It's not canon anymore, but I really felt like they were trying to push it and actually put homosexuality into the Star Wars universe, which I'm fine. But when you keep bringing it up and you keep stating that the character is homosexual, I'm like, I get it. I know he's that way. Like, can we go in with the story?
Yeah, and you wouldn't be doing that if he was straight, so don't do it.
Yeah, it's like Stevie Collier, the very straight warrior, was fighting the big goblin. Yeah, that's what they were doing. And it was like, please stop. Yeah. I really liked that they were homosexual at first. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's interesting. And then, like you said, they just kept adding it on and on. I wish and it came to the point where I didn't read the second book. I was on this quest to read all the Star Wars books. Yeah. I don't know if you can tell, but I really hate Star Wars.
You're a fan, yeah.
I hate it. But I just can't bring myself to read the next one.
Have you read Richard Morgan's The Cold Commands? The Land Fit for Heroes is the name of the series.
The Land of Five Heroes?
No, A Land Fit for Heroes. But the main character is gay and unashamedly so. And, his world is not accepting of it. He definitely is the subject of a lot of slurs. But that was one of the first books I read when it was very open about it.
Is it called the Dark Defiles?
Yes.
Man, that book cover is thug. That's Andy's word, thug.
Yeah.
Don't say stupid words, Stevie.
Hey, I actually learned that in high school and in California.
Well, Richard Morgan's a good writer, and the first book of that series can almost be read as a standalone, and I highly recommend it. It's really, really good.
That's important to me to actually have a series that the first is a standalone. Like Blade of the Destroyer, Andy's first book, is definitely, in my opinion, a standalone.
It helps a lot.
Yeah, like I wrote the Four Territories definitely as a standalone, but it leaves off for like, oh, there's going to be a second one.
Yeah.
Nick, I'm going to yell at you a little bit for all your fans. We want to see the band back together.
Yeah, well, you never will. I'm just kidding.
Well, I know that they're all done and they're all old and proud, but come on, man, they're Matrick lost some weight. He's ready to go.
Well, that was definitely when I started to, like, when people started to show interest in it. People definitely asked about, like, there's a couple publishers interested, and one publisher wanted it to be the same band in all three books. And I was just absolutely not, just because the whole book is about people. That's like their last mission. That's what makes it so special. And if you take that away, then you just kind of do a disservice, I think, to the whole story and the characters themselves.
And if you would have been a sellout if you would have done it that other way. Yeah. You would have. And I have to say, completing your story, knowing that the band wasn't going to get back together, not only made it sad, but more special. Much more special. Like saying goodbye to friends and family forever. Exactly. It was like that. And it was funny because I finished the book on the beach at the guys' trip, and it's 3 guys, me, my best friend, and my brother. We all go out to the beach and we have a lot of fun. And they were out being retarded in the water. And they came back splashing, and I'm like, I have the book in my shirt. I'm like, get the fuck away from me, get. I'm having a very emotional moment over here. I've got 5 pages left, and they're trying to talk to me, and they're drunk. I'm like, I'm trying to read here. 5 pages left. So.
Well, it makes me happy to hear. I'm glad.
Yeah, and I actually, on the way there to the beach trip, I actually had Andy's book on audio. So we were listening to Blade of the Destroyer, and they're like, man, this dude is gory. Is he mean or something? I'm like, actually, no, he's very nice.
Yeah.
I know. I've heard that a bunch of people tell me, like they meet me at conventions and they're like, oh, you're such an outgoing, friendly guy. And then they read my books and they give me this look like, what? What's going on? Who is this person?
Yeah. Why is he so nice? And why isn't he trying to kill me by my ball sack? Hey, one of our viewers on YouTube has just said, blame Canada, blame Canada.
Yep, blame us.
Yep. I'm sure you are familiar with that awesome movie.
I am indeed. Indeed.
Are you a fan?
And a heck of a video game too. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a good video game.
Yeah.
That was. Hey, Nick, how old are you?
39.
I'm not gonna say a word.
Yeah.
You don't look 39.
I get that a lot.
But
Moisturizer.
Don't throw away your coupons for coffins yet. Just kidding.
Yeah. Moisturizer and hiding away from the sun. That's the secret.
Yeah. You're like Edward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Slightly less sparkly.
So we can make this episode a little bit more educational, and I'll leave that to Andy. Andy, please make this episode a little bit more educational. Direct us away from boner talk. Well, word of the day. Word of the day. Andy, you almost made me forget, damn it. Andy, did you have a word of the day or word of the week?
No, go ahead. Hit us with something good.
Okay, so I am a big fan of words, like creepy, dark words, and I stumbled upon a word called shuddersome, which is a book. I don't think I'd ever use that word. I think it would make the reader stop on it and think about it. But if something is shuddersome, it just sounds like something that'd be in a Goosebumps book. Yeah,
that sounds like a childish word, like a Nancy Drew meets a horror. Like young, very, very young, childish. It's a shuddersome looking monster.
Ooh, the shuddersome, creepy, crawly spiders on my bed.
Yeah, I've definitely never used it, and I can't say that I will.
Yeah, I think you should on your next book.
Shuddersome.
You know what, though? You should really email Andy and I if somebody in the future uses shuddersome on one of your book reviews.
If I see it, I will point it out to you for sure.
Thank you very much.
What's your guys' favorite word to use while writing?
Well, that's usually not a good thing for me because I'm like freaking using it all the time. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
Andy, you go first. Let me think.
I don't think I have a favorite word, but all of my actions tend to be very like dramatic, very punchy. Like he doesn't just hit a wall; he slams into a wall or collides. Like I use these big overpowering verbs for everything. Leaps up to his feet, bolts up, things like that.
Yeah.
That's sort of my writing style.
I actually had beta readers look out for words that were way too repetitive, and I got back the words strike, which I was surprised. And actually going through my battle scenes again, I'm like, oh yeah, but there's not a whole lot of words used for strike, but that was telling me maybe I was telling and not showing.
Yeah.
So actually, Control F and looked up the word strike all throughout my manuscript to go back, and aura, A-U-R-A, aura.
Yeah.
That was surprising.
That's probably not a good one to overuse because it's a unique word and it has a very unique meaning.
I was describing things with an aura, so it'd be like 4 times in the book, but 4 things were described with an aura. And I forget some readers read fast, so they hit that word more.
Yeah.
And I read slow, but I'm gonna change it. But so in my case, those were my 2 words that I need to change.
Yeah. Repeating words is a huge nitpick for me. Just crazy. I have put down entire series 4 books in. Once I hit the word vast, I hit it about 5 times over 4 pages, and I was done. Book closed. Series done.
Wait, the word vast?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. And so my brother who's one of my major beta readers. It just tears the ass out of me if he catches like the same word twice, besides like a basic word, the same word twice in the same page, like the word light. Never, ever. Unless it's there on purpose for some reason.
My brother does the exact same thing, and I keep telling him, "Just don't do it. I'm gonna have the editor do it." No, he highlights it anyway.
And my editor actually didn't. She said she didn't recognize it that much until I started pointing it out in my stuff. And now apparently her other authors, she nitpicks them for using the same word twice. But my favorite word to use, which I like to space out, is the word inexorable.
Inexorable.
I remember, or inexorable. People say too. I remember the very first time I ever read it. It was in a Guy Gavriel Kay book, and I've loved it ever since. And so it is. I put it in my book once. I think I used it the very first time, like in the second chapter, and then every time I wanted to use it again, I would weigh it against the other inexorable, and which deserved it more. So I think it's in there twice, once at the beginning, once at the end.
Well, I can read it right now if you want me to.
What's that?
I found it in your book.
Oh yeah. Is it just once or twice?
Let's see, one. It's
maybe
once.
more than you're hoping.
It's once.
Oh, good for me. Good for me.
Yeah. Do you want me to read the paragraph real quick?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't as though Clay needed Guinea breathing down his neck to refuse, to see that Gabriel longed for something unrecoverable, like an old man clinging to memories of his golden youth. Exactly like that, actually. But life, Clay knew, didn't work that way. It wasn't a circle. You didn't go round and round again. It was an arc, its course as inexorable as the sun's trek across the sky, destined at its highest, brightest moment to begin its fall. Ooh.
Gets me every time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no Shuttersome, but it'll work.
Yeah.
Andy, the words of the week between Andy and I are so different. He finds like
a pretty good word.
Yeah, he finds like words and then does research behind them, and I find words I find hilarious.
It's all about balance.
Yeah, he's the yin to my yang.
Yeah.
Please don't say yang, Stevie.
Everybody says yang. You're supposed to say yang. That's how the Chinese say it.
You ain't Chinese. You're an American. You're a Texan/Californian. So say yang.
Nick, please excuse my racist friend.
That's all right. That's all right.
You know not what he do.
He's from Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Japan, actually.
Yeah.
No, I'm not joking. He is from Japan. He's just a very tall Japanese dude.
Very nice.
Do you guys want to get to the reading?
Sure, yeah.
Let's see. Okay, thank you, Andy, for taking that YouTube for a second. Okay, so where in this PDF are we, Nick?
Well, it's page 16.
Okay.
Beginning of chapter 3.
I am there.
Do you guys read excerpts from all your authors that you have on here?
Just the handsome ones.
That's the whole point of starting this film.
Cool.
Andy and I love doing this, so.
So who's doing what characters here? What do we?
That's up to you. We always let the guest author handle that, right, Andy?
Absolutely. Unless there's a character that I feel I have to read, like the troll, in which case I will say it.
That's true.
But so direct us.
Ooh, it's going to be, well, is it too difficult for one person to be the narrator and one person to be the characters?
No.
That's too crazy.
Whoever does Clay needs to have a deep voice, I think.
That's you.
Me?
That's you, bro. Yeah.
Me? I have like the highest pitched voice here, I think. Oh,
It's not me.
You are making a laugh at me.
No, it sounds deep to me at the moment.
You're right. Andy?
Yeah.
Andy.
Yes, Stevie.
I'm doing Clay.
Got it.
Okay, I'll give Clay a go, if that's okay with you, Nick.
You know what's good about Ganelon's voice in the audiobook is it sounds like Kevin Spacey in House of Cards.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
gave
awesome.
him a deep southern twang.
He needs it. He needs it for sure.
Yeah.
Andy,
it's amazing.
Ganelon is the epitome of quiet badass. That's
okay.
How else would you describe
I'd love to do that. But is he in this scene?
No.
It's just Clay and Gabriel, right?
Yeah, just Clay and Gabriel.
All right, tell you what, I'll do the narrator.
Okay.
And you can do whichever character, Gabriel, however he's supposed to.
Okay, I'll do Gabriel. Stevie does Clay.
Okay, and the first part is me, right?
Correct. Oh, so should I set it up really quick?
Yeah, please do.
Yes.
Okay, so basically these guys used to be in a mercenary band together. They've since all gone their separate ways. Gabriel, who's the leader of the band, has got divorced. He screwed up his marriage, screwed up his life. Clay has retired, lives with a wife and child, is a guard. And one night Gabriel, who's always trying to get the band back together, shows up at his front door saying he needs his help. His daughter is now a mercenary herself. She's trapped half the world away in a city under siege by 100,000 monsters, and he wants Clay to help him get the old band back together to go rescue her. So the very last thing he said is, help me get this band back together. And
all right, let's go. Chapter 3, A Good Man. Absolutely not.
It's not apparently the answer his friend was expecting, or at least not as emphatically as Clay put it. Gabriel blinked. The fire inside him snuffed out as quickly as it appeared. He looked confused more than anything, disbelieving.
But Clay...
I said no. I'm not leaving town to go running off west with you. I'm not leaving Guinea behind, or Tally. I'm not going to track down Moog, or Matrick, or Ganelon, who very probably still hates us all, by the way, and go what is that? Traipsing? Traipsing across the Heartwild. Tits of glyph, Gabe. There's more than 1,000 miles between here and Castia, and it ain't paved with stone, you know.
I know that.
Gabriel, but Clay spoke over him.
Do you? Do you, Gabe? Remember the mountains? Remember the giants in those mountains? Remember the birds? The fucking birds, Gabriel, that could snatch those giants up like they were children?
Grimace at the recollection. The shadow of wings that spanned the sky.
The rocks are all gone,
said Gabriel, without conviction.
Sure, maybe.
Clay aloud.
But are the Rasks gone? The Yethics? The Ogre clans? How about the 1,000-mile wide forest? Is that still there? Do you remember the wild, Gabe? Trees that can walk, wolves that can talk, and hey, do you know if the Centaur tribes are still trapping people and eating them? Because I do, and they are. And that's not even mentioning the bloody rot. And you're asking me to go there, to go through it?
We did before.
Gabriel reminded him.
They used to call us the Kings of the Wild, remember?
Yeah, they did. When we were 20 years younger. When our backs didn't ache every morning and we didn't wake up 5 times a night to piss. But time did what it does best, didn't it? It beat us up. It broke us down. We got old, Gabriel. Too old to do the things we used to, no matter how good we were at doing them. Too old to cross the wild and too old to make any difference at all if we did.
He left the rest unsaid, that even if they managed to reach Castia, somehow evading the circling horde, and made it into the city itself, there was every chance in the world that Rose was already dead. Gabriel leaned in.
She's alive, Clay.
His eyes were steel again, but his assurance was belied by the threat of tears.
I know she is. I taught her to fight, remember? She's as good as I ever was. Maybe better. She killed a Cyclops by herself.
He said, but
I started to narrate.
No problem.
Sounded as though you were trying to convince himself as much as Clay.
Yeah. They say 4,000 survived that battle and made it back to Castia. 4,000! Rosie made it. Of course she made it.
Maybe, yeah.
Said Clay, mostly because there was nothing else to say.
I have to go.
Gabriel said.
I have to try and save her. If I can. And I know I'm old. I know I ain't what I used to be. Not even a shadow.
He admitted sadly.
I guess none of us are. But I am her father. A shitty one, yeah, to have let her go off in the first place. But not so shitty I'll sit around moaning about my sore back while she's trapped and probably starving half the world away. But I can't do it alone.
He laughed sourly.
Ha! That was my sour laugh.
Yeah.
And even if I could afford to hire mercs, I doubt I'd find any willing to go.
He has that part right.
Thought Clay.
You're my only hope.
Gabriel said.
Without you, without the band, I'm lost. And so is Rose.
There was a silence after he spoke, weighted with expectation. And then he added, quite unfairly.
What if it were Tally?
Clay said nothing for a long while. He listened to the creaking boards of his house. He stared at the empty bowls, the wooden spoons resting against the rim of each. He gazed at the tabletop. He looked across at Gabriel, and Gabriel looked back. He could see the other man's chest rise and fall, his heart hammering as Clay's own thumped quietly on. And he wondered if so simple an organ, just a fist-sized, blood-slick muscle, might not have some premonition of what the mind, perhaps, did not yet know.
I'm sorry, Gabe.
His friend just sat there, frowning at first, and then smiling that strange, withered smile.
I am sorry.
Clay said again. Another while passed, and Gabriel just looked at him, tilting his head ever so slightly, and said after what seemed like forever,
I know you are.
He stood. The sound of his chair scraping back was as loud as a falcon's screech after the long silence between them.
You can stay.
Clay offered, but Gabriel shook his head.
I'll go. I left my bag on the step. There's an inn in town?
Clay nodded.
Gabriel.
He began, intending to explain he didn't know what exactly. That he was sorry, again. That he couldn't risk losing Ginny or leave Tally without a father if he went off west and the worst should happen. And it would happen, he was sure of it. That he was comfortable here in Coverdale, content after so many restless years. And that deep down the thought of crossing the Heartwater, of going anywhere near Castia and the horde that surrounded it, scared him shitless.
I'm afraid.
He wanted to say, but could not. Gabriel mercifully cut him short.
Tell Ginny the stew is delicious.
He said.
And tell your daughter Uncle Gabe says hello. Or goodbye, whichever.
Offer him boots.
Some part of Clay's mind insisted.
A cloak at least, water or wine for the road.
He said nothing instead, just sat there as Gabriel opened the door. Cool air, the wind rustling in the trees outside. The chorus of 100,000 crickets in the tall grass. Griff looked up from his mat, saw that Gabe was leaving, and probably fell back asleep. Gabriel stalled on the threshold, looking back.
Here it comes.
Thought Clay.
The final plea, the scathing remark about how if it were the other way round, he would do it for me. Bellicor.
Bellicor notwithstanding, words had always been Gabe's most potent weapon. He'd been their leader back when, the voice of the band. All he said, though, before walking out and tugging the door closed behind him was,
You're a good man, Clay Cooper.
simple words, kind ones even. Not the knife he'd been expecting, not the piercing sword. They still hurt, though. End of scene.
Whoa. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
Nice work, gentlemen.
Man,
Okay.
we should have done the audiobook.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like take 342.
So it's this whole time I've been reading it wrong. I've been reading it as Guinea. So it's Ginny.
It is Ginny, yeah, sorry.
Why was I was probably thinking Guinea from Harry Potter. Is it Guinea?
I don't know if it's that either.
What? What did you say, Andy?
Ginny.
Ginny?
With it like a J sound, a soft J, Ginny?
Okay, I don't know. I just read books, all right? I don't have to get the names right every time. Damn.
I tried to make him simple.
Yeah, that's not simple enough, Nick. Not simple enough. So, hey, please remind me at the end of this podcast, I have a question, but I can't ask it on air because it will give away a huge part of the book.
Got it.
Andy, you might have to leave. But if you're like me, you can't ruin, like you can't tell me the end of the book. I won't read it.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those anti-spoiler people. You spoil something, I will hunt you down and murder you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's not that big of a spoiler, and I could rephrase it a little bit, but it's a spoiler. Anyway, Nick, in the beginning of the passage we just read, Gabriel says, "You're my only hope." Was that a Star Wars reference?
100%, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I remember reading it, and I was like, nah, he wouldn't do that. He's not that cool.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of references in there, and sometimes that's what makes people not like the book, because not so much the Star Wars ones or the video games ones. There's Princess Bride references in there.
There's a Rush one.
Nice.
There's lots of Rush ones.
Is it Fly By Night? The chapter, is that a Rush reference?
Chapter is called Fly. It's 100% a Rush reference.
Yes, I was telling my friends that, like, no,
Yeah.
dude, he wouldn't do that. He's an author.
Yeah.
I'm like, he would totally do that.
Yeah. Ganelon's axe name is Syrinx, which is the name of the temple of Syrinx in the song 2112. If you've never heard it, it's a friggin' awesome song. But yeah, so there's a few Rush references in there.
That's cool. Ganelon is the guitar player. No, Gabe. Who's the guitar player? Ganelon.
Yeah, Ganon is representative of of the lead guitar player. Yeah.
Because he has the axe, which is the same name as a guitar.
Yeah.
Matrick is the drummer because he has 2 daggers, which are the drumsticks.
Yeah.
Clay is the bass guitarist, soft-spoken, but needed to be there.
Yeah.
Moog is the pianist.
Yeah.
And
Keys, keyboards, triangle, kazoo, whatever you need him for.
Hey, you know what? The pianist is always the craziest in the band, I've noticed.
Exactly.
They have to stand out. One of my favorite bands, Chiodos, like you could barely pay attention to them live because the pianist was going crazy. And he wasn't even like part of that song. He's just going nuts, flinging his hair and pushing people.
Yeah. So, well, that's definitely those characters. It's not so much in later books or necessarily all the characters, but a lot of them were very, very, very defined by their roles in a band, like lead singer, bass guitarist, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I really.
But subtly enough, hopefully, that like my editor didn't get any music references when she first read it, and she liked it just fine.
Well, I definitely caught a lot, and I'm sure a lot of readers did. And man, well, I'm really glad we chose this passage. And okay, real quick, what was your inspiration for Moog?
Really, there wasn't one. I got his name actually is the name of a brand of keyboard. That's how I named him. But yeah, no, he's supposed to be kind of just the stereotypical wizard. I mean, he's got a bag of holding with him. He uses things like staffs, wands, crystal balls. He's so basic, but he also wears one-piece pajamas most of the book.
Yeah.
So yeah, Moog was just supposed to be he's the relentlessly positive person of the group. And yeah, obviously he's got his moments where he breaks as well, but he was by far the funnest person to write, and the person who you can't wait to write a Moog line because whatever he says is going to be.
And when Moog breaks, all hope is lost. I felt like, because if this happy character isn't happy, something is definitely wrong.
Yeah.
My favorite Moog park is when he is using hot soup as a weapon. So that was amazing.
That's another scene that almost didn't make it into the books. There's a few scenes that they're all Moogs that didn't almost make it. The one where he's pulling like honeyed hams and out of his hat and throwing it at people.
That's That's an amazing part.
I thought so. And then the line where it's the most. When you look at Goodreads quotes, it's the quote that's at the top of the list. It's where the 5 of them are walking. It's supposed to be that scene kind of like in Armageddon where the people are all walking side by side in slow motion. Chapter where they go to Calaric's compound.
Oh, that's how I pictured it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was trying to write was that scene. So the very end of it, Moog trips over the hem of his robe and they wanted it back on. And I was like, no, it's got to be in there.
Yeah, he ruins the slow motion awesome effect.
Exactly.
So, well, awesome. Andy, do you have anything else to say? I don't mean to have taken the episode. I just had a lot of questions. So,
like I told everybody, we're just going to expect a lot of fanboying from Stevie this episode. So.
Damn it. I hate that. And you know what?
I appreciate it.
Well, I'm sorry, Nick, but my mission was to not let my fanboyness get out. But obviously it did not work. So... I really, really, really appreciate your enthusiasm for the book. It means the world to me. So keep writing. I want to see more. You and Andy. So like, if I like an author, I will contact them. That is why I contacted Andy, and I was like, dude,
feel free.
I loved your book. So if you're out there listening, always feel authors are people to contact them. They say hey, and just don't contact me. I'm too big. And how dare you even look me up?
Well, I wrote to my favorite authors before I became one. So
did they answer?
Who did you write to?
I wrote to Guy Gabriel Kay once, and he answered back to me. And I wrote to Joe Abercrombie once,
nice,
asking if he'd ever played The Witcher, and he had never heard of it at the time. But it was.
That is a badass game and a really good book. A really good book.
Yeah.
So
definitely heard of it now.
That was my first audiobook I ever listened to. Was The Witcher.
Which book?
It was the very first one because it's hard to tell which was the first book. The Witch Hunt, The Last Witch.
The Last Wish. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
The
like
Last
a bunch
Wish.
Of short stories almost.
Yeah, I read that one.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Well, Andy, has our time ran out?
Yes.
Run out. Man, well, such a, I feel like we didn't even hit the topic a lot.
Well, we can always do it some other time.
Exactly.
That's true.
We can do this one again.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, would you like to come back on the air when you are releasing your second book?
100%. I would love that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll keep a lookout, and I will definitely contact you when you are releasing your book, or contact us. We are steadily growing every day. It surprises Andy, but not me, because they are showing up for me. So
absolutely. No, what's cool is that the Fantasy Fiends just hit 49 subscribers, which passes my personal 48 subscribers, which is like, I was like, that was the goal to beat, and now we just beat it. So that's awesome.
They might be showing up for Boba Fett, actually.
Yeah.
That's very true.
And we're not hitting a hugely searched topic either. Like a very people just aren't searching. Oh, I want to listen to fantasy today. So we're really excited about this, and it's really fun to do. And Nick, it's been a pleasure having you here, and we'd love to have you back on again.
Love to.
Yeah,
so,
thanks so much for joining.
Andy will definitely.
Yes. Nick, why don't you tell all three readers or listeners where they can find you?
Well, I am on Twitter. I believe my handle on there is Nicholas_Eames, because some enterprising Nicholas Eames got there before me. I have a website called nicholaseames.com. And if anyone is reading the book or about to tackle it, or feels like ever reading it again, there is a full soundtrack on that website that is just it's suggestions, but it's chapter by chapter what I listened to while I was writing it.
What?
Yeah. Have you never seen it? It's got fake opening credits ones. There's certain scenes in there that I was just stumped, and then I would listen to a song like ZZ Top's Lagrange, and I would just the whole scene, you can read it out loud and it fits into that song. So yeah, there's a whole soundtrack on there.
Great, man. And I feel like a lot of readers or viewers who are going to actually search your name and look you up, they may be, aspiring writers. Do you have any tips for aspiring writers?
Yeah, I would say, what I did, I worked on a book for 16 years, and I worked on it over and over and over again, and thought that it was just going to be the one. And eventually, while sending it out, I said I tried something new and wrote Kings of the Wild, and it came so much easier than what I've been trying to rework and rework and rework. So maybe don't be afraid to set a project aside for a while and start something fresh, because even if it's not the one to get you published, it's going to help you grow as a writer, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah. Worked for me.
Great.
Are you ever going to see that big one you're saying?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask that, but I thought we were running out. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's a big fat fantasy book, and my editor did recently ask to take a look at it while she was on vacation, but I haven't heard from her about it, so I'm just going to assume it was burned.
Well, you could put it as a book magnet. So
yeah, I totally could. We'll see.
Andy knows. I do actually. I feel bad because I do most of my research on book marketing over my craft, and I need to switch it because now I feel like I know everything about book marketing because I've spent so many hours on it, and I need to go back to craft. So, but anyway, Andy, should I go ahead and end this episode?
Yeah, 5 minutes ago.
No. Okay. I'm sorry, everyone, that I'm giving away so much good, awesome, funny, hilarious content. Well, we want to thank everyone out there listening and viewing. This is the amazing Nicholas Eames, the fantastic Giant, Andy Peliquin, and the new and up-and-coming Stevie Collier, who will be moving into an apartment and is super excited about that. We want to thank you all. Nick, thank you very much from everyone here at the Fantasy Podcast.
My pleasure.
That's Andy and I.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yes. And Andy, what is next week's episode?
Next week's episode is with Josh Rutherford, a friend from San Diego, California. He hasn't answered me with the topic for the week, but I know we're going to talk about something cool because he is actually a Toastmaster. He's a member of Toastmasters General, so he is very articulate and eloquent. So we're going to have a great discussion. You'll probably not say a word the whole time.
Oh, wow. It's
It'll
payback
be a real
time.
Step up on this episode.
I know.
Hey,
I know.
no.
An eloquent guest?
You know what? I'm not even showing up. No, I'm going to show up with the suit on and a little thing of tea. Hello.
You need a monocle.
Yeah, and a monocle. Look like Mr. Peanut.
Put a tuxedo on Boba Fett behind you?
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, yes.
Amazing.
And you
Great
can actually
idea.
just like print out a paper tuxedo and just stick it on the image, and it would be perfect.
Oh, and I'll see George Lucas on my doorstep with like a wadded paper, like newspaper, ready to smack me. All right, guys. Well, it's sad, but we have to end. Our journey has ended. The band must go on their way. Well, thank you everyone for watching and viewing. Tune in next week for another fantastical episode of the Fantasy Fiends podcast. Thank you for watching and listening.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.